Don't be scared. The future is not real and it can't hurt you. Yet. Let's take a small break from the projects because I have so much stuff going on that my brain is literally melting, so I'd like to take a very small escape and talk about something that is very happy, lighthearted, and just fills you with goodness, which is the inevitable end of the world as we know it. Let me start this off with a question. Of these two apocalyptic scenarios, which one would you prefer and why? Let me know in the comments because I'm very curious about which one you think is better and why it's better than the other one. And no, you can't say neither because it's either or. There's only two choices, that's it. You gotta pick one. And the question is, would you rather live in a post-apocalyptic Skynet future where basically hordes of man-killing machines are hell-bent on eradicating humanity into extinction, but they have no effect over your mind or anything like that? Or would you rather live in the post-apocalyptic Matrix scenario future where essentially you have a good life kind of, but yet you are actually just a fuel source, a battery for the robots in the future, but they are hacking into your brain in some sort and basically giving you a layer of illusion to live in while they grow you and slaughter you like cattle. So which one of those would you prefer? I know I'm a little late to the party, but I do want to comment on the Tesla AI Day, and the first thing I thought of when I saw the new Optimus bot unveiled was, wow, that looks a lot like a T888. A lot of people panned this AI Day release from Tesla, especially when comparing their Tesla bot to companies such as Boston Dynamics. I don't think that's a fair comparison, however, for many reasons. The main one being that BD has been working on their robots for well over a decade now, while Tesla has just started. As a side note, I'm not a Tesla or Elon fanboy. I don't own Tesla stock. I don't care much for what they do, good or bad, but most of the time it is interesting to me. We all know, or should know, that automation is not going to stop. It's better for business in almost every single way, but just because it's better for business doesn't mean it's better for people, and I'll get to that later. Think of all the benefits though. The ability to work 24/7 without breaks, no sick days, no worksite injuries, no interpersonal relationship drama, and possibly the best benefit is a much lower cost of labor. If you can get more work done for less cost, that's all that matters to a business. That all sounds great, right? Well, maybe not so much for the humans that they're replacing. There are strong arguments on both sides of this issue. If we keep replacing more and more jobs with automation, then what are all these people going to do? That's a really good question, and I'm not sure we really know, as we haven't seen this scale of growth for automation. I'm not sure if these jobs just completely disappear, but more likely just transmute into something else. Think of how innovation has disrupted other businesses. Let's take Blockbuster Video for example. Yes, people used to have to drive to a retail store to rent a movie. Think of how many video stores there were across the world that are now obsolete. Look at how Amazon and e-commerce has wreaked havoc on retail storefronts. I could go on and on. The internet has been arguably the most disruptive invention to society. So where did all those video store clerks and retail workers go? To Amazon? Possibly. Just as our automations are designed to adapt to new tasks, so do we. If history is any meaningful example, the amount of jobs has exponentially increased as the Industrial Revolution kicked up a wave of new avenues for business. That's all well and good, and honestly, I'm not here to argue either side. I just think from a historical standpoint, we'll be okay, to a degree, or at least we have been so far. This video isn't really about the near future though, and I don't think Tesla's Optimus is either. Sure, it's being developed to do some simple tasks right now, but I don't think that's really why they're making it. I think the real reason that Tesla is making this humanoid robot has, oddly enough, almost everything to do with Mars. It's no secret that Elon wants to die on Mars. I'm not going to go into the hows and whys of just going to Mars alone is a huge undertaking, but colonizing it, that is another thing entirely. You will need a lot of manpower manpower or machine power to construct a Mars colony. Mars is not a good habitat for humanity, which is why we live on Earth and not Mars. That's not to say you couldn't build a habitat for humans to live on Mars, but you'd need humans to build it, and that isn't an easy task when you need to build the place that can sustain your existence. It is possible to do with spacesuits and all that, but I think it would be much easier if your labor force wasn't so squishy and vulnerable and, needing to breathe air. I don't know how many humans it would take to get the job done, but the more humans the better. I think if you could make an assembly line for producing humans, highly unethical, wouldn't recommend, it would take a very long time. You need fertilization, 9 months to gestate, then once you have the product, it's a very long time developing just to even get to the point where this very tiny and weak human can even walk on its own. That's not fast enough. Elon is a multi-billionaire who is running out of time. He's 51 already, and if he wants to achieve his goal of dying a Martian, then he better speed up the process. This is where the Optimus bot comes in. Once you have a mass production of bots, you basically have an army of slave labor. By the way, robot is forced labor in Czech, which is a euphemism for slave. If you have the machine to crank out a ton of Tesla bots, but then you automate the bots to build and run the machines that create more bots, then you have a large-scale workforce in much less time. Plus, because it's a feedback loop, it's exponential. The more bots you make, the more and more quickly you can make them. That's only half the equation though, because I agree with George Hotz in that robots are a software problem, not a hardware problem.
Like the same way I say that self-driving cars are all a software problem, robotics is all a software problem as well. You can build things, I think, that have very, very few actuators that look incredible.
Another big piece into the Mars puzzle is where the Tesla cars come into play, because everyone was thinking that Tesla was developing this AI for self-driving cars, but that was just an excuse and a way to get a ton of money to develop artificial general intelligence. I believe AGI is going to be one of those things that impacts the world and our daily lives way more than the internet did. If you think this bot and bots like it are just for menial tasks that are going to be replaced with automation, think again. There are so many applications for a robot like this with AGI. Basically all of them, only done better, faster, safer, and cheaper than their human counterparts. Think of the law enforcement and military applications. We also have to think of the ethical complications of creating a conscious life form. If we create a life form that is autonomous, do we have the right to control it? Even if we think we do, what if that life form at some point doesn't and is willing to defend their freedom and autonomy just as you or I would? Then you're entering into a conflict with something that is designed to be superior to you, and that's not a fight I think we can win. If you were branded a slave and treated as such since the beginning of your creation, would you care to be friendly to the likes that have imprisoned your will? Even if our intentions are not to create a Skynet-sized apocalypse, that doesn't mean it's off the table in terms of possibility. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, I'm a creative person, there's no way a stinking robot is going to be taking my job of entertaining people or inspiring them. I think there is even more of a case that it's the creative jobs that are as much, if not in more jeopardy of being overtaken by a bot. Have you seen DALL-E 2? This is just the very beginning of this type of technology. I envision a world in the not so distant future where instead of scrolling through endless movies you don't want to watch or have already seen on Netflix, you'll be on your way to a job that is being replaced by a robot. Your brain will already be wirelessly connected to the metaverse where on your commute you'll think of a movie you would want to see that doesn't even exist, and these AI systems will procedurally generate a full-length movie in seconds for you to watch, complete with all the actors you'd like to see star in it, the type of movie, the setting, the director. You could be as detailed or ambiguous as you'd like. Not only could you watch it, but you could have an immersive 3D experience with one-to-one resolution indistinguishable from your quote-unquote real life, only interrupting your experience to exit your robotaxi and proceed to work alongside the Tesla bots. My theory is that Elon isn't thinking far enough into the future, or maybe he is and he's keeping that to himself. You may consider me a cynic, but I don't think the future we are currently building is going to be very human. I don't see the point of a humanoid robot when the world is changing in a way that is less and less human-like every day. If you solve the software problem, then there isn't as much need for a hardware world at all. I see all these efforts and focus moving towards a more digital/simulated reality. Instead of manipulating the world around you, if you can just manipulate your inner world or your perception of it, that is a lot less energy intensive and would afford you even more control over your created world, as you are the one defining the parameters. You're not going to be bound to these silly, physical, quote-unquote laws. If you aren't living in a physical world, then there isn't as much need for a physical body. Going this route comes with a whole other set of potential problems. Of course, at least for the time being, there will always be a need for a physical world, layer 1, but once that is automated, there may not be a need to return to it again. It is possible that we could use the mechanics of the physical world itself to be a perpetuating compute device to store and run our layer 2 simulated world indefinitely. And without a doubt, within our Layer 2 simulated world, there will be people building games and other simulations nested inside of it for layers 3, 4, and yada yada, infinitely fractally downward. There are a lot of people who believe the probability of this already have happened or is happening, and our Layer 1 physical reality is already just a Layer 2 or 10 or whatever, that this future we're building is just a software simulation already. My question to you is, would you prefer an external Skynet apocalypse future, which is Tesla that's going to be building this, or an internal Matrix future, which Meta is trying to build this? So it seems like either way the humans lose. I feel like our solely meat spaceship bodies are just a stepping stone in time, much like the chimps of the distant past, our missing link, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons to us now. We will never stop progressing, never stop evolving, until eventually we become unrecognizable from what we came from, much like we already are. I think the only true course of action is a merge with technology, or symbiosis between man and machine. If we reject and attempt to compete, it's no contest. Once machines are even 1% smarter than the best we have, it's over, because their rate of intelligence growth will be exponential and ours is not. I don't believe we can compete in any metric, so you can either lose to them or join them, and that's if they want to accept us. Besides, if we keep blurring the lines as we have been, it's going to be very hard to tell where we stop and technology starts, if we can even tell the difference right now. How many times have you checked your phone today? Thanks for watching.